Well, hello, I'm Janet Morena, Executive Director of Priests for Life. Welcome to Just Ask Janet. Well, the pro-life movement, we have been always on the side of women from the very, very early days. I can think back hearing the stories of Nellie Gray and the others, the very first March for Life, and they were so astonished, like, oh my goodness, we're now killing babies. We have to respond. The people who have been responding from the very, very early days, actually even before Roe v. Wade, were the pregnancy help centers. And the largest organization that has pregnancy help centers all over the United States, all over the world, is Heartbeat International. And I'm so delighted today that we're going to delve deeply into what they really do. It's a lot more than diapers and formula. So joining me today is the president of Heartbeat International, Jarrell Godsey. And Jarrell, welcome to the program.
So pleased to be with you, Janet. Always good to be around you.
And I said, in the very early days, I can even remember helping to collect diapers at church and all that stuff. And I think so often the pregnancy help movement got the bad reputation of that's what they did. Diapers, formula, cribs, high chairs, and all that. But tell us about a little bit of that history. Peggy Hartshorn, your former president and chairman of your board,
yes.
She was there from the very beginning, right? Her and her husband, Mike, really took girls into their homes. So tell us a little bit about that history.
So that's one of the most untold stories, really, is while we saw the laws change. So even before Roe, laws were changing in several states.
Right.
So by the time we get to Roe, there's a dozen states that already have abortion, and the response, which largely came from almost exclusively from the Catholic community, was saying, what can we do? Now, there was a what can we do to change these laws back? And there was a real sense, as Peggy reminds me, there was a real sense that at that time, they thought, well, this will get straightened out in no time. So they'll figure a way out legally to fix this Roe thing, and we'll move on from there. But in that time, they were saying, but wait, women don't know where to turn, and they're being lured into the abortion by their circumstances, by other people. They're being, in some cases, forced into these things, which still, of course, happens today. And there were those that rising up saying, how can we help her? Right. And it wasn't just, as you said, it wasn't just diapers and formula. That really was a need that would happen with the birth of the baby. It was meeting her where she was, what were influencing her decisions. Sometimes, as is often the case in a crisis, her vision for where she can go begins to narrow. It's like a tunnel effect, and soon everything around her says, well,
it's like, I'm not ready to be a mom. Now what am I going to do?
All of that. And I don't know where I'm going to get support. And no one is a positive voice for me right now in any other decision other than abortion. And so when that's really all she can see, then although the other side calls it choice, that's not a choice. No. And she feels like that's the only path for her. And there were people that were waiting for the law to change, of course, but willing to step into that world with her. That to me is still one of the most amazing things that happens in pregnancy centers all over, is we wait for her and we pursue her to sit down with a complete stranger and enter into her life.
Right.
And really discover, like, why, what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you want? What is it that you truly want versus what do you think you have to have in the moment?
Yeah. Well, I know Peggy Hartshorn was very instrumental in the training that your centers do called the Love Approach.
Yes.
Tell us about the Love Approach, because that really teaches us how you meet that woman beyond the diapers and the formula. Yeah. It's like, this is how you meet her in her crisis. So tell us about the Love Approach.
Exactly. So she was looking for a way. Now, we had some wonderful trained counselors, professional counselors who were able to navigate some of these conversations. But what Peggy did was she took it and kind of translated some of that trained counseling that requires years to develop. We had to develop it much faster to get people who just wanted to come and love on women, but love them into a life decision. And so that's where the Love Approach comes from. And of course, she frames it on 1 Corinthians 13, but it really is very simple. The L, it's LOVE. L stands for listen and learn. And
well, that's huge right there.
That's right.
Listen. Because very often we don't listen and we're just trying to help solve the problem. And instead of listening to her, tell us what do you need?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That's how it starts, right?
Exactly. We first need to listen to her. And just like I said a moment ago, listen to the influences that she's feeling, listen to the concerns that she's having, listen, even ask and seek to understand, what is she dreaming about? Where does she really truly want to go in her heart? So listen and learn about her and learn from her what are the influences in her. Then the next step is O, which is open options. Like I said, she's often found herself in a way where everything's like it's constricting towards one option. And of course, when there's only one option, there's no option. And so we have to open her options. Well, have you thought about this? And have you even not so much about her decision, but about the things that are driving her decision? Have you thought about this, which might be a parallel opportunity for her? Have you seen and understood this? And then we begin to move from O into V, which is vision and value. We begin to hopefully pull out her own vision and her own values. Most of the people that we are interacting with have something internally that anchors it within them that really is kind of calling out. And we believe, of course, that's the Holy Spirit. That's what God has put within us, how he's kind of sewn into our fabric some of these things like motherhood, fatherhood, and all of these things that are part of our not just our DNA, but the very soul.
To build women to be nurturers.
Exactly.
I mean, that's part of it.
Exactly.
And so I think, too, Jarrell, isn't a lot of women and young girls especially feeling like, oh, no, I have to now choose between staying in school, having a career, or, oh, no, I'm going to lose my scholarship, if I'm pregnant, or I'll get kicked out of school. I mean, that stuff really plays hard on them.
Certainly.
And it's the pregnancy center there that will say, no. You don't have to choose between your education. I mean, how many of these girls do you guys help? And then you get them back into school, don't you?
Well, we do our very best. Yes.
Right.
So, or actually, we make sure that she doesn't feel like she has to go leave it all to begin with.
Leave it all.
It's the pregnancy center is the one that has this kind of like deep sense of knowledge that she doesn't possess, but that she needs.
Right.
I love our pregnancy centers that are connected to college campuses, because they're going to be, or that are nearby and serving a college campus demographic, because they're the ones that know that that college can't force you out, or that program can't force you out. There are actually laws in place for that. There
and they can't take away your scholarship either.
That's exactly right. And they know this. Unfortunately, she doesn't know this. And what's worse than that is those that are preying on her for an abortion decision don't want her to know, or don't know themselves. And so the pregnancy center is really a resource of information that she normally doesn't have, is not walking around with. Like what 19-year-old is walking around with that kind of information?
And isn't the pregnancy center too will also assist them with, number one, telling their parents? I mean, because some young girls are, one reason they run off to have an abortion, they don't want their parents to know that they were sexually active and they got pregnant. So they'll help them with that, won't they?
Yes. Oftentimes they'll even invite maybe her mom to come into the center. And I've known of some that have gone with her to talk to her parents and to unpack that. This is also one of the kind of internal lies that most women that find themselves in that situation are hearing. It's not true, but they're hearing it. Like, and we will hear, "Oh my gosh, my parents are going to kill me." Well, okay, there are rare instances where the craziness does extend to that level, but for the most part, that's her fear responding, and typically most parents, once they get past that initial shock become very supportive of that. And of course, we get to see the beauty of that in so many lives that are saved from that momentary fluctuation in where they're going to deciding for life, that the parents rally around, the grandparents rally around. She truly does have a support network that will help her. She just doesn't know it at that time. And of course, the pregnancy center is there to be that short-term support for her, and can be, in many cases, a longer-term support for her. But typically, and this, again, I'm speaking in generalities, typically, her own family will rally around her and help her do that, because that's what we've been doing for millennia, right?
That's right.
That's what we know to do internally, and we know what we should do.
So that's part of the V then, giving them the vision that, you're going to get through this, and we'll see the ultrasound of your baby, and they connect with that. So then what's the E?
So the E is extend and empower. That's where we begin to equip her. So many pregnancy centers will have parenting classes, like we talked about, not just the things that we can give her, but the tools that we can equip her with. So help her walk through, like, even just not just good parenting, but life skills. They can help her certainly orient towards that birth, orient towards what that will be like, kind of help her through those. I mean, how many, what to expect when you're expecting, right? So
Right.
walk her through that season and then prepare her for that, not just that
And
moment of birth.
and they'll help her too. Like if let's say she has no medical insurance, and they will help her find good pro-life doctors, OBGYNs, right, who will help care for her too, right?
Yeah, great point. So one of the things that we can empower her with is the knowledge of what's available to her.
Right.
Most communities, federal, state funding, there's lots of resources for her. Again, that most 19, 20-year-olds are not walking around with, or 24, 25-year-olds not walking around with, right?
Right.
They don't know that there is a number of things available to her that our government has put in place, that whether it's, again, provided by the state or it's coming from a federal, she has access to these things and she will
Right.
be helped. But definitely we want to connect her with pro-life doctors, pro-life, particularly OB-GYNs that will walk with her in a pro-life way so that she can continue to value that baby, that they'll continue to bring the value for that baby, and really empower her to make this decision, not just to give birth, but then to live a successful, thriving life afterwards.
And then, of course, the center will help with the guy that's in the picture. I mean, with every pregnancy, there's a mom and a dad, and it's a boyfriend or a husband, because people don't realize that sometimes these husbands are pressuring their wives into having an abortion, right?
That's true. It's a real mixed bag, because remember, our culture really is trying to sever him from this conversation.
Right.
Now, if he's intent upon influencing her to have an abortion, then of course the culture is on his side.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it works the other way as well, where if he's trying to influence her to keep the baby, his baby, then the culture is against him.
Well, they say you have no right here.
Exactly. They make him silent. I mean,
Right.
they mute him in that sense. And
So the centers do make a big effort to bring the dad into the picture, don't they?
well, it depends. Where if he's an antagonist to a life decision,
Well, no, then they have to
then
kind of.
we're going to empower her with the ability to kind of stand up to that, to the best
Right.
of our ability, to the best of the way that she can work. She can accomplish that.
But if he wants to support her,
Oh, absolutely. Then we're trying to draw him in, because
and there's classes for the guys too.
usually, yes,
yeah.
there are opportunities to help him know how he needs to do this as well, because we want to empower and enable him to be able to walk with her in, again, that life-affirming reality.
Right. And of course, people might be saying, oh, I don't know where there's a pregnancy center near me, because they can get involved, they
Yeah.
can volunteer, and
Yeah.
they go to, isn't it pregnancycenter.org, right?
Yep, that's one of them. Optionline.org is where I would direct them. They can
They can put their zip code in, can't
Yep,
they?
zip code, city, state, anything.
And they'll give you the list of the
yeah, well,
nearest
it'll
pregnancy
actually
centers.
return a locator of the 10 closest to them, wherever they put that, whatever
Right.
they enter in that.
Yeah. So how many, Jarrell, pregnancy help centers do you have right now, just under Heartbeat's umbrella, would you say?
So in the U.S.,
Mhm.
pregnancy centers only, we
Right.
have about 1,600 pregnancy centers that are connected to us.
Wow.
And then we would add to that, we also have affiliated with us maternity homes, some nonprofit adoption agencies, some other pregnancy help, alternative to abortion type organizations. So in the U.S. alone, it's about 1,800, maybe a little more than 1,800.
Right. And then, of course, internationally, how many countries are you
Yeah,
in?
we're in more than 70 countries around the world. And it is, boy, if it's an adventure to do this in the U.S., it's even harder outside of the U.S. So
I'm sure
we
it is.
are regularly working with, praying for, connecting with those that are doing this in other, not just other countries, but they're in different cultures, they're in different economies. And so it's always helpful for us to understand where they are so that we can try to help them as best as possible.
Right. And I've always been, as you know, Father Pavone and I, to your conferences.
Yes.
And to me, pre-COVID, one of the most beautiful things is to see all those internationals, especially the ones coming, I think, from the most difficult areas, they come from Africa.
Yes.
And when they come even from Asia, like from China, and these different places, I always find it so inspiring of what they have to do in the culture they're in to save babies, and how much help you guys give them. I think it's incredible. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you're right. So some of our developing countries where
Right.
we realize that particularly in the U.S., we're a very affluent country, but when we're dealing with this issue in other countries, we have some other dynamics that they're in deeply difficult economic
Poverty
situations.
situations, yeah.
And so it's difficult to run a ministry in that, much less think about bringing a baby into this world.
Right.
So we have a much deeper and more difficult challenge. And yet at the same time, this is what's kind of interesting is in all of our affluence, we're not as faith-minded. We're not as thinking, well, God can take care of this, because we think, well, we can take care of this. But in our developing countries, the whole God theme is even that much more important, because they are relying on him more, and seemingly in ways that are deeper, and so they seek him. And so this is much more available to us in our effort to help her see that, what, someone else is involved in this process and wants to be a part of this, and that only happens to be the God of the universe.
Right. It's amazing. Now, another project that I know Heartbeat has been very influential in, and we actually, Father Pavone and I know the doctor who did the very first abortion pill reversal, which was Dr. Matt Harrison. He's our medical advisor here. And I remember getting the call from him, like it was yesterday, of how it all happened. Someone just brought someone into his office who had taken RU486, the very first pill in the abortion clinic, and she regretted it. Changed her mind. And of course, the abortion clinic tells you, oh, you have to take that second pill. It's too late. The baby will be deformed. Got to do it. But they brought this girl to Dr. Harrison, and he said first he went into his other office. He opened his Bible first and prayed.
Oh, hallelujah.
And then he opened the medical books, and he decided about this progesterone treatment, which turned out to be successful. They saved that very first baby. And then, of course, he contacted Dr. Delgado out in California and others, and they now have written a protocol. This is a medical protocol, validated now, where if you take that chemical abortion, that first pill, you change your mind, there's an abortion pill reversal procedure. And now Heartbeat International, you guys have taken under your umbrella. So tell us about all that, because this word, Jarrell, has got to get out there in a bigger way.
It does. This is actually a very interesting time for the pro-life movement in particular.
Right.
Up until just in the recent years, the primary method of abortion was surgical.
Right.
And the idea that we could be involved and really see something change in the midst of a surgery was almost unheard of. Like, yes, there are those women that had the tremendous courage to actually get up off the table and run out of the building. But frankly, once the abortion began, it was pretty much a done scenario.
That's right.
Barring some of our survivors who we celebrate. But with the move towards chemical abortion, which of course the big abortion really has been moving in that direction for the last 10 years. Yeah. And so with chemical abortion, Dr. Harrison's kind of discovery of how we might be able to combat that, we can see this change happen in the midst of an abortion. So as you mentioned, when she's taken that first abortion pill, and we, just for our listeners, we know that there are 2 pills involved. So if she changes her mind between taking the first pill and taking the second one, there's that window of time where she has this opportunity.
Yeah, it's usually about 48 hours that she has.
Yeah, actually can work up to 72 hours.
Right.
But what we're finding at the Abortion Pill Rescue Network is that we are getting almost 75% of the women are contacting us within the first 24 hours.
Well,
so that something's happening.
Yes, because what happens, I think, and we see this from the testimonies we get, they take that first pill and then suddenly they begin to regret it. Yes. They begin to say, should I have done this? Maybe I shouldn't. And then they start going online saying, can I reverse this? And that's
exactly right. Yeah.
Is it too late?
Is it too late? And that's what's powerful. So there is this last chance to choose life. And so she can do that if she reaches us. And we answer, I think it's about 300 of these women are calling us every single month. Wow. Where they're reaching us. We have a team of nurses that are going to help her get connected to a local provider who can help her with that abortion pill reversal protocol, which is just progesterone, right? It's already something that a woman produces in her body, and so it's
flooding her with the extra doses of the progesterone to kind of counter what the abortion pill is doing.
That's exactly right. So if we can reach her in the quick amount of time and get it to her, and she gets started, then there's an almost 70% chance that baby might be saved.
That's right. I mean, she still might miscarry the child.
Sure.
That does happen, but
that's
like you said, 70%.
70%.
That's
68% in one form and 64% in another. And I've had the privilege of actually, talking and walking and visiting with some of those. One of Dr. Delgado's early successes was Rebecca Hagan, and she's on the Heartbeat staff now. And I've had the chance to meet her little guy who was a baby that she had that experience, and she literally called the rescue line from the parking lot of the abortion clinic. She had just walked out of the room, sitting in her car, had that same feeling.
Right.
And we get those calls all the time today. She's calling and saying, oh my goodness, what did I just do?
What did I
Is
do?
there anything I can do? And the answer is yes.
Right. Yeah, because the abortion clinic is going to tell you no.
That's the sad part. They do know better. And this is where abortion pill reversal, they've been vicious about attacking it because they don't want it to take hold in the minds of anybody in the public that women actually do regret abortions. And as you well know,
right,
through your Silent No More activity, women do regret abortions. And in this instance with chemical abortion, they are regretting it immediately and wanting to do something different. And of course, no woman should be forced to go through with an abortion she no longer wants.
That's right.
And that's where we are trying to help her.
Well, and part of the regret, and we see this from their testimonies, the ones who don't get the abortion pill rescue and reversal, is that they don't have, like in a surgical abortion, a doctor to blame.
Exactly.
They become the abortion doctor because it's with their own hands they take that pill, and then they take the second pill. Mm-hmm. And then their bathroom becomes the abortion clinic. Because again, with the surgical abortion, they'll say, I can't drive down that street anymore. They don't want to pass that Planned Parenthood or that abortion clinic. But now their bathroom became the abortion clinic. So they're more traumatized. And we find they're coming for healing faster because of the deep regret and the trauma to them, That's new. That's a new reality for us. And I think that's what this new paradigm that big abortion is foisted upon us is creating. Mm-hmm. And not only is she coming quicker, she's angry. Oh yeah.
She's angry and she has every right to be because the abortion industry has lied to her.
They have. And they don't tell her that the excruciating pain, the amount of bleeding she'll have, and that she will see that baby in the toilet.
It does happen.
And that's what does happen. And it's traumatizing them. But let's go back to the rescue for a minute. Okay. The good news. I'm a good news person. All right. So to date, what would you say about how many babies have been saved because of the protocol?
Oh, our statistics show that we have more than 3,000 walking around today or are in cradles or maybe still in the womb. A few of them yet that have survived that abortion experience are at, we begin to count them at 13 weeks. If they can survive that and get the 13 weeks, then we know that baby has a phenomenal chance to survive. There may be other things that come up that are at issue that where that
and these are healthy babies.
Yes, that's one of the beauties of Dr. Delgado did a study over 500 women of the abortion pill reversal process. And in that, he found that a lot of people will say, well, what happens? What about the baby? Are they at risk to deformities or other challenges? Right. And the fact is that they're actually at a lower risk. They're at a lower incidence of that occurring than in the general public in just general pregnancy. Wow. And I think I'm not the doctor, but I think that's because she's getting that progesterone, which is actually reinforcing the pregnancy, helping the baby. That's what we would normally do if there's a risk of miscarriage or there's she's low in progesterone. We would supplement that with progesterone, and that's exactly what abortion pill reversal is.
That's great.
Yeah.
So now, there's a special website to go to?
Yeah. So abortionpillreversal.com would be where I encourage everybody to go to.
And everyone should know that, especially if you pray outside of an abortion clinic, because very often they're going to come out with that little brown bag.
It's true.
And they might. You could just say something. Well, in case you change your mind. And is there a hotline number?
Boy, you're going to ask me that, and I don't remember it. But it's hard to remember. So option line would be the one I would encourage, which is 1-800-712-HELP.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, option line is the one that answers that first call from her. Because not every woman that is reaching us at abortion pill reversal has actually taken that first pill. In some cases, what is happening is they're researching it, which is good for them.
That's great.
They need to know more. And what better way for Option Line to find them and then connect them with that local pregnancy center so that they can further that understanding about why are you seeking an abortion? Why are you seeking chemical? What are the influences that you're feeling?
Well, I always say, like, 'cause I've been out inside of abortion clinics, for a long time, praying and counseling and trying to rescue babies and their moms. But I think the most important thing to say to them is, well, you don't even know if you have a viable pregnancy.
Exactly.
And then they look at you like this. Oh, I said, well, why go in there where they're going to try and have you have an abortion when I can bring you someplace where they'll first tell you, is this pregnancy viable?
That's exactly right.
Does the baby have a heartbeat? And you'll get to see the baby, and then you can see what you want to do.
That's true. And of course, the abortion
I always
industry,
find that's a game changer because one time, Joe, I was out in front of an abortion clinic, and of course, I wasn't from that state, and they all could only go past this one line. And this girl was sitting on the ground in the parking lot. Her mother and boyfriend were there, and she's crying. And I'm saying to them, isn't anyone going to go over and help her? Oh, well, Jan, we can't cross the line. I said, well, I'm not from Indiana. Watch me. And I went over there, and I started to talk to them. And coincidentally, there was a pregnancy center in the shopping center that is right up here, right? So I started talking, and she said she felt nauseous. So I said to the mother, I said, well, you better not bring her in there yet. Why don't we just go get her a ginger ale? And she goes, yeah, well, ginger ale helps. Come on, let's go. So in order to get the ginger ale, we had to pass the pregnancy center. the ginger ale was the next door down, so I got them into the pregnancy center. And of course, they decided to keep the baby. Because I wasn't concerned about the police were going to arrest me if I crossed the line into the parking lot. But, you know, so often these girls are going off to these abortion clinics and they're just looking for answers and looking for help. That's really what it was.
Well, and as we know, things are changing where she's not even having to go to the abortion clinic anymore.
Right.
You know, with the administration changing the FDA rules, lowering things that were designed to help women and to secure her health.
Are you 486 in the mail?
Yes.
And there's no doctor even supervising this.
That's correct.
It's terrible.
And
terrible.
so so it's actually, she's not having to go anywhere. She can actually order it now or be prescribed it. Telemed abortions are occurring.
Right.
And so these are difficult things where her health, I think her healthcare is being sacrificed really on the altar of big abortion.
You're sure? I mean, you wake up tomorrow with a scratchy throat, Jarrell. You can't even get antibiotics unless you go see a doctor, right?
It's true.
But they can kill their babies.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one final thing.
Yes.
You wrote this book with Peggy Hartshorn, The Power of Pregnancy Help, the first 50 years.
Yeah.
Tell us about this book real quick.
This was fun. This is actually, so Peggy wrote a book for our 40th anniversary. But as we were approaching the 50th anniversary of Heartbeat International, she was kind enough to ask, you know, well, would you help? Would you co-author it with me? And I was blessed to be a part of that. It was really, really fun to kind of walk through the successes of the pregnancy help movement, which is what we were able to do. Right. There have been many, you know, we have accomplished amazing things. In the US alone, there are more than 2,800 pregnancy help service locations that we would call pregnancy centers that are in the US all alone. That's the far and away the largest in the world. Wow. And it's a privilege to serve in that movement and be a part of that movement. So it's a celebration.
How can they get a copy of the book?
Well, they can actually, it's available on Amazon, but they can reach us at heartbeatinternational.org and we'd be glad to help them.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Jarrell. And I will look forward to being with you and Peggy and the gang in Jacksonville, Florida.
We're excited
last
to have
week
you.
In March for the next conference.
Thank you so
thanks
much,
for coming. I really appreciate it. Well, brothers and sisters, thank you too for joining us on our program today. And I hope you realize that maybe you need to check out optionline.org, see where the nearest pregnancy center is. And remember, you can be involved too and volunteer. And remember, there are some abortions only you can stop and some lives you will only be able to save. Join us again next time. Thank you and God bless.
I will be silent no more.